Deep beneath the dense canopy of the whispering woods, where sunlight filtered through the leaves in golden patches and the air was thick with the hum of life, lived a little mole named Pip. Pip wasn't an ordinary mole. While other moles enjoyed burrowing in soft soil and nibbling on roots, Pip had a curiosity that seemed far too big for his small frame. His round, velvety nose was always twitching at the faintest hint of adventure, and his tiny, spectacled eyes sparkled with wonder at the mysteries of the world. Pip's home was a snug little burrow nestled at the base of an ancient oak tree. Its walls were lined with shiny stones and trinkets Pip had collected during his explorations. Pieces of colourful glass, shimmering beetle wings, and even a peculiar key he'd once found buried in the earth. But among all his treasures, Pip's most prized possessions were his books. Stacks of them were crammed into every nook and cranny of his burrow, their pages worn and creased from countless readings. Pip loved stories, tales of brave adventurers, enchanted kingdoms, and mysterious lands beyond the whispering woods. He dreamed of discovering secrets hidden in the world, much like the heroes in his books. Yet, as much as Pip adored reading, he often wondered what it might feel like to step into a story of his own. One warm spring morning, as a soft breeze carried the scent of blooming wildflowers through the forest, Pip decided it was the perfect day for a new adventure. He packed a small satchel with his favourite magnifying glass, a notebook and a pencil, just in case he stumbled upon anything worth documenting. Slinging the satchel over his shoulder, he emerged from his burrow, blinking at the gentle sunlight that painted the forest floor. The whispering woods were alive with sounds and colours. Birds sang cheerful melodies from the treetops, and squirrels darted from branch to branch, chattering about their morning escapades. Pip's paws crunched against the carpet of fallen leaves as he wandered deeper into the forest, his nose twitching with excitement. He followed a narrow trail lined with soft moss, past a bubbling brook where dragonflies skimmed the water's surface, their wings catching the light like tiny rainbows. Pip hummed a tune as he walked, the rhythm of the forest filling him with a sense of wonder and anticipation. As the path twisted and turned, Pip found himself in a part of the forest he didn't recognize. The trees here were older, their gnarled branches reaching skyward like ancient sentinels. The air grew cooler, and a hush seemed to fall over the woods, broken only by the rustling of leaves. At the base of a particularly massive tree, its bark covered in thick green moss, Pip noticed something unusual. There, half buried in the earth, was an arched wooden door. Its surface was intricately carved with swirling patterns and tiny symbols Pip couldn't quite make out. A rusty handle protruded from the center, and as Pip leaned closer, he saw faint words etched above the archway. "The secret library awaits the curious." Pip's heart raced with excitement. A secret library? He whispered to himself. Could it be filled with books I've never seen before? Stories no one has ever read? He reached out and gently tugged on the handle. At first, the door wouldn't budge, but after a firm pull, it creaked open, revealing a dark, spiraling staircase that descended into the earth. Warm, golden light flickered from somewhere below, and the faint scent of parchment and ink wafted upward. Taking a deep breath, Pip adjusted his spectacles and stepped through the doorway. His paws felt the cool stone of the staircase as he descended, each step taking him further into the unknown. The walls of the passageway were lined with glowing vines that pulsed softly, as if alive. Shadows danced along the curved walls, and Pip couldn't help but feel both a tingle of excitement and a slight flutter of nerves. At the bottom of the staircase, the tunnel opened into a vast chamber that took Pip's breath away. Shelves upon shelves of books stretched up to the high-domed ceiling, their spines glowing faintly in hues of gold, silver, and emerald. The room was bathed in a warm, magical light, and the air hummed with an energy Pip had never felt before. In the center of the chamber stood a lectern carved from crystal, and atop it sat a single open book. As Pip approached, he noticed words beginning to appear on its blank pages, as though an invisible hand were writing them. "Welcome, Pip. Your journey begins here." Pip stood frozen, his velvety paws trembling slightly as he read the words on the page. "Welcome, Pip. Your journey begins here." He blinked several times, unsure if his imagination was playing tricks on him, but the glowing letters remained, shimmering softly, as though inviting him to take the next step. With a deep breath, Pip adjusted his satchel and looked around the enormous underground library. He had never seen anything so magnificent. The shelves were carved into the stone walls, their intricate wooden frameworks supported by columns of crystal that glowed faintly with hues of blue and green. Each book seemed alive in its own way, emitting a soft glow, as though they held stories too magical to stay dormant. The ceiling above was a mesmerizing sight. A massive mural of constellations was etched into the stone, and tiny glowing stars seemed to twinkle as Pip moved. The light from the ceiling bathed the room in a calming, otherworldly glow. In the center of the library, beneath the great domed ceiling, was a circular mosaic floor made of colorful tiles arranged to form the image of an open book with golden rays emanating from its pages. Pip's small heart thumped in his chest as he stepped closer to the glowing book on the crystal lectern. The air around it was warm, and he could feel a faint hum of energy vibrating through the floor beneath his feet. He reached out hesitantly, his paw hovering over the page. "Curious little mole, aren't you?" The voice was soft and lilting, like the rustle of pages in a quiet room. Pip jumped, spinning around to find the source. Perched on one of the lower shelves was a small, wrinkled bookworm with a round face and enormous glasses that magnified his eyes to comical proportions. Who are you?" Pip stammered, clutching his satchel tightly. The bookworm chuckled, his tiny body shaking with amusement. "I'm Walter, guardian of this library," he said, inching closer along the shelf. "And you, dear Pip, are the first visitor we've had in many, many years." "How do you know my name?" Pip asked, his nose twitching nervously. Walter adjusted his oversized glasses and gave a sly smile. "This is a magical library, Pip. It knows many things. It knew you'd find your way here eventually." Pip tilted his head, his curiosity quickly outweighing his nervousness. "What is this place? And why is it hidden beneath the forest?" Walter's expression softened, and he gestured toward the rows of books around them. "This is the secret library, a place where the greatest stories ever told come to life. It's hidden because only those who truly seek knowledge, adventure, and imagination can find it. And you, Pip, have been chosen." Pip's ears perked up. "Chosen? For what?" Walter inched closer, his tiny voice dropping to a whisper. "To unlock the stories within these books. But they're not ordinary stories. Each one holds magic, waiting to be set free. But," he added with a dramatic pause, "there's a catch." Pip leaned forward, hanging on to every word. What kind of catch? Walter gave a mischievous grin. To unlock a story, you must first solve a riddle. The riddles are tests, you see, designed to ensure only the truly curious and clever can unleash the magic within. Pip's heart raced with excitement. He had always loved riddles and puzzles, often spending hours solving the ones in his books back at the burrow. "I'm ready," he said eagerly. "Show me a riddle." Walter chuckled again. "Not so fast, Pip. The library will guide you, but first you need to understand the rules." He scurried toward the glowing lectern where the book's shimmering words shifted and reformed before Pip's eyes. Rule 1. Curiosity unlocks the door. Rule 2. Kindness lights the way. Rule 3. Imagination reveals the treasure. Pip read the words aloud, his voice echoing softly in the vast chamber. "Curiosity, kindness and imagination," he murmured. "I think I can do that." Walter nodded approvingly. "Those 3 qualities will take you far, Pip. Now, let's get started." The bookworm led Pip to a nearby shelf labelled Beginnings in Looping Golden Script. Walter explained that the library sections were organised not by subjects but by the emotions and experiences the stories evoked. Beginnings, adventures, lessons, and dreams. "Here we are," Walter said, stopping at a shelf where several books glowed faintly in shades of yellow and orange. "Choose a book, Pip. Let's see what your first story will be." Pip scanned the titles, each one more intriguing than the last. The Whispering Winds, The Moonlit Voyage, The Garden of Whispers. His paw hovered over a small, unassuming book with a deep blue cover titled The Key of Shadows. "This one," Pip said, pulling the book from the shelf. It was surprisingly light, and its cover felt warm to the touch. Walter nodded. "Excellent choice. Now, let's see if you're ready to unlock its secrets." He led Pip back to the lectern, where the blue book opened on its own. A riddle began to appear on the first page, written in swirling golden script. "I am not alive, yet I grow. I do not have lungs, yet I need air. What am I?" Pip's mind raced as he read the riddle. His eyes lit up as he pieced the clues together. "A fire!" he exclaimed. As soon as the words left his mouth, the book glowed brightly, and a wave of warmth and light filled the chamber. When the glow faded, Pip found himself standing in a new place entirely, a lush forest clearing where the air shimmered with golden sparks. Walter appeared beside him, looking pleased. "Well done, Pip. You've unlocked your first story. Now, let the adventure begin." The golden sparks danced around Pip as he stood in the enchanted clearing, his mind buzzing with the excitement of unlocking his first story. Walter perched on a nearby tree stump, adjusting his comically large glasses as he surveyed the area. "Well, Pip," Walter said with a chuckle, "welcome to your first magical story. But remember, every story has its challenges. Are you ready to face them?" Pip nodded eagerly, though a small flutter of nervousness stirred in his chest. "What do I need to do?" Walter gestured toward a path that wound its way through the clearing, flanked by towering trees whose leaves shimmered like liquid gold. "The Key of Shadows is no ordinary tale. It's a story about courage, resourcefulness, and finding light in the darkest places. To unlock its full magic, you'll need to retrieve the 3 fragments of the Shadow Key, hidden throughout this story world. Only then can you access the book's final chapter." Pip's nose twitched, his curiosity piqued. "How will I find the fragments?" Walter grinned knowingly. "With riddles, of course. Each fragment is guarded by a challenge, and only your wits and determination will help you succeed." Pip squared his shoulders and tightened the strap of his satchel. "I'm ready," he said, more confidently this time. Walter gave an approving nod and waved a tiny book-shaped charm in the air. The shimmering path before them began to shift, revealing 3 distinct trails branching off into different directions. "The first fragment lies within the glade of echoes," Walter said, pointing to the path on the left. "But be careful, Pip. The glade can be tricky. It likes to play games with your mind." Pip took a deep breath and stepped onto the path, the golden leaves crunching softly under his paws. Walter scurried after him, his small frame surprisingly agile as he kept pace. As they walked, the trees around them began to grow denser, their golden glow fading into a silvery hue. The air grew cooler, and a soft hum filled the space, like distant whispers carried on the wind. "This must be the glade of echoes," Pip murmured, his ears twitching as the whispers grew louder. Suddenly the path opened into a wide, circular clearing. At its centre stood a stone pedestal, upon which rested a small, gleaming fragment of a key. But the clearing wasn't empty. Faint, shadowy figures flitted around the edges, their indistinct forms shimmering like smoke. Walter cleared his throat. "The echoes," he said in a hushed tone. "They're harmless, but they love to confuse adventurers. To claim the fragment, you'll need to solve the riddle they guard. But beware. They'll try to distract you with their tricks." Pip nodded, his gaze fixed on the pedestal. As he stepped into the clearing, the echoes swirled closer, their whispering voices overlapping in an eerie, melodic cacophony. "Who dares enter the glade of echoes?" one voice intoned, its tone both curious and commanding. "I'm Pip," he said firmly, though his paws trembled slightly. "I've come to claim the fragment of the shadow key." The echoes seemed to pause, their whispering voices falling silent. Then, one by one, they began to speak in unison. "Answer our riddle, and the fragment is yours. Fail, and you shall remain lost in the echoes forever." Pip gulped, but nodded resolutely. "I'm ready." The echoes' voices harmonized into a single, rhythmic chant. "I'm always running, yet I have no legs. You can't stop me, yet I never move. What am I?" Pip furrowed his brow, his mind racing. The echoes began to swirl faster, their whispers growing louder as though trying to drown out his thoughts. "Focus, Pip!" Walter called out, his voice cutting through the noise. "Don't let them distract you." Pip closed his eyes, blocking out the swirling shadows and the rising whispers. He replayed the riddle in his mind, searching for the answer. Always running, never stops, never moves. Suddenly, his eyes flew open. "Time!" he shouted. The echoes froze, their forms flickering like candle flames in a gust of wind. Then, as one, they began to laugh, a soft, echoing sound that filled the glade. "Correct," they intoned, their voices reverberating like a chorus. The fragment on the pedestal glowed brightly, and Pip stepped forward to claim it. As his paw touched the fragment, a surge of warmth and light filled him. He felt a sense of accomplishment and wonder, as though the fragment itself was rewarding him for his success. "Well done, Pip!" Walter exclaimed, scurrying up to his side. "One down, 2 to go. Let's keep moving." The path shifted once more, guiding them toward the second location, the Whispering Caverns. The Whispering Caverns were unlike anything Pip had ever seen. The entrance was framed by jagged crystals that glowed faintly in shades of purple and blue, casting eerie shadows on the ground. A low, melodic hum emanated from within, and Pip couldn't shake the feeling that the cavern was alive. Walter hopped onto a nearby rock, his tiny form silhouetted against the glowing crystals. "The second fragment lies deep within these caverns," he said. "But beware! The whispering caverns are filled with illusions. Stay focused and don't let the shadows lead you astray." Pip nodded, gripping the first fragment tightly as he stepped into the cavern. The air was cool and damp, and the glowing crystals cast shifting patterns on the walls. As he ventured deeper, faint whispers began to echo around him, similar to those in the Glade of Echoes, but more fragmented and disjointed. "Pip," a voice called softly, and he turned sharply, his heart pounding. "Over here," another voice murmured, this one deeper and more insistent. Pip's paws trembled as he looked around, but Walter's voice cut through the confusion. "Don't listen to them, Pip. They're just illusions. Focus on finding the riddle." Ahead, a faint light glimmered, and Pip hurried toward it. He emerged into a small chamber where a second pedestal stood, its surface inscribed with glowing runes. As he approached, the whispers grew louder, but he steeled himself, focusing on the task at hand. The runes on the pedestal began to shift and rearrange, forming a riddle. "The more of me you take, the more you leave behind." "What am I?" Pip bit his lip, the answer just out of reach. The whispers around him swirled, growing louder and more insistent. But he blocked them out, repeating the riddle to himself. "The more you take, the more you leave behind." His eyes widened as the answer clicked. "Footsteps!" he exclaimed. The whispers fell silent, and the second fragment appeared on the pedestal, glowing softly. Pip grabbed it, a wave of triumph washing over him. Walter scurried to his side, beaming. "You're doing wonderfully, Pip. One more fragment to go." With 2 fragments of the shadow key safely tucked into his satchel, Pip felt both exhilarated and a little nervous about the challenges that still lay ahead. Walter perched on his shoulder, his tiny wings fluttering as he adjusted his oversized glasses. "2 down, 1 to go," Walter said, his tone brimming with encouragement. "But the final challenge is always the hardest. Are you ready, Pip?" The little mole nodded, his resolve firm despite the butterflies in his stomach. "I'm ready," he said, gripping the strap of his satchel. The path before them shimmered once more, leading them out of the whispering caverns and into a landscape unlike anything Pip had ever seen. The ground was covered in a soft silvery mist that swirled around his paws as he walked, and the trees around them seemed to glow faintly, their branches adorned with crystalline leaves that tinkled like wind chimes in the gentle breeze. "This is the Meadow of Dreams," Walter explained, his voice quieter than usual, as though he didn't want to disturb the serene atmosphere. "The final fragment is hidden here, but finding it will require more than just solving a riddle." Pip's ears perked up. "What do you mean?" Walter adjusted his glasses, his tiny eyes gleaming with a mix of excitement and caution. "The Meadow of Dreams is special. It tests not just your mind but your heart. To find the fragment, you'll need to confront your deepest fears and prove your courage." Pip swallowed hard, his paws trembling slightly. "My fears?" Walter nodded solemnly. "But don't worry, Pip. You've already shown so much bravery. I know you can do this." Taking a deep breath, Pip stepped into the meadow. The mist seemed to part before him, revealing a narrow path that wound its way through the glowing trees. As he walked, the air grew still, and an eerie silence enveloped the area, broken only by the soft tinkling of the crystalline leaves. Suddenly, the mist began to thicken, swirling around Pip and Walter until they could barely see a few steps ahead. Shadows flickered at the edges of Pip's vision, and he heard faint whispers, though he couldn't make out the words. "Stay close to me, Walter," Pip said, his voice steady despite the growing unease in his chest. "I'm right here," Walter replied, his tiny claws gripping Pip's shoulder. As they continued forward, the mist began to shift and take shape, forming faint, ghostly images. Pip froze as he saw a shadowy figure that resembled himself, standing motionless in the path ahead. What is that?" Pip whispered. Walter's voice was calm but serious. "It's part of the test. The Meadow of Dreams shows you reflections of your fears and doubts, but remember, they're just illusions. They can't hurt you unless you let them." Summoning his courage, Pip stepped closer to the shadowy figure. As he did, it began to move, mirroring his actions with eerie precision. "Who are you?" Pip asked, his voice firm. The figure's voice was quiet and echoing, as though it was speaking from far away. "I am you," it said. "But I am also every doubt and fear you've ever had. Do you really believe you're brave enough for this journey? Do you think you can unlock the magic of the secret library?" Pip hesitated, the shadow's words cutting deep, but then he remembered Walter's advice. "They're just illusions. They can't hurt you unless you let them." Taking a deep breath, Pip squared his shoulders. "I do believe in myself," he said firmly. "I've come this far and I won't give up now." The shadow seemed to falter, its form flickering like a candle flame in the wind. With a final burst of confidence, Pip stepped forward, and the shadow dissolved into the mist, leaving the path clear once more. "Well done, Pip," Walter exclaimed, his tiny wings flapping with excitement. "You faced your fear and proved your courage. The meadow can't stop you now." As they continued through the meadow, the mist began to thin, and the path led them to a small clearing. At its center stood a shimmering pool, its surface as smooth and reflective as glass. Hovering above the pool was the final fragment of the shadow key, glowing softly in the moonlight. Pip approached the pool cautiously, his eyes fixed on the fragment. But as he reached out to grab it, the water rippled, and a low, rumbling voice echoed around the clearing. "Who dares to claim the final fragment of the shadow key?" "I do," Pip said, his voice steady. "I'm Pip, and I've come to unlock the magic of the secret library." The water rippled again, and a large serpentine figure rose from its depths. It was a water guardian, its translucent body shimmering with shades of blue and green. Its eyes, like twin sapphires, regarded Pip with a mixture of curiosity and challenge. "To claim the fragment, you must answer one final riddle," the guardian said, its voice deep and melodic. Pip nodded, his determination unwavering. "I'm ready." The guardian's eyes gleamed as it spoke. "I have keys but no locks. I have space but no room. You can enter but you can't go outside. What am I?" Pip furrowed his brow, the riddle turning over in his mind. He glanced at Walter, who gave him an encouraging nod, but didn't speak. This was Pip's challenge to face. "Keys but no locks. Space but no room," Pip muttered to himself, pacing back and forth. "You can enter but not go outside." Suddenly his eyes lit up with understanding. "A keyboard!" he exclaimed. The water guardian's sapphire eyes sparkled, and it gave a slow, approving nod. "Correct," it said. "You have proven your wit, courage, and determination. The final fragment is yours." The fragment floated down into Pip's outstretched paw, and a warm, golden light enveloped him. He felt a surge of energy and accomplishment, as though the fragment was filling him with its magic. "Well done, Pip," Walter cheered, hopping up and down on the edge of the pool. "You've done it! You've collected all 3 fragments." As the guardian sank back into the pool, the mist around the clearing began to dissipate, and the path before them shimmered once more, leading back to the secret library. "Come on, Walter," Pip said, his voice filled with excitement and anticipation. "Let's finish this journey." The 2 companions followed the path, their hearts light with triumph. The glowing trees and shimmering mist of the Meadow of Dreams gave way to the familiar stone steps that led to the hidden library. When they reached the entrance, the great doors opened on their own, as though welcoming Pip and Walter back. The library was just as magnificent as before, with its endless shelves of glowing books and the warm golden light that filled the air. Pip approached the pedestal at the center of the library, where the ancient tome of the Shadow Key lay waiting. As he placed the 3 fragments into the engraved slots on the book's cover, the room filled with a radiant light, and the book began to hum softly. "Well, Pip," Walter said, his voice filled with pride. "You've done it. You've unlocked the magic of the Shadow Key." The glowing fragments of the Shadow Key clicked into place on the cover of the ancient tome. Pip and Walter stood breathless, their eyes fixed on the book as it began to hum softly. The golden light emanating from it grew brighter, filling the entire library with a warm, magical glow. "It's happening," Walter whispered, his tiny wings trembling with excitement. "You've done it, Pip." Pip's heart pounded in his chest. The moment he had worked so hard for was finally here. As the last fragment settled into its slot, the cover of the book slowly began to open, revealing pages that shimmered like the surface of a calm lake under the moonlight. "Pip?" A gentle voice echoed through the library. It was deep and resonant, filled with wisdom and kindness. Pip looked around in awe, realizing the voice was coming from the book itself. "Who are you?" Pip asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I am the keeper of stories," the voice replied. "For centuries, I have safeguarded the magic of imagination, waiting for someone worthy to unlock it. You, Pip, have shown courage, curiosity, and a love for learning that few possess. You are the one I've been waiting for." Pip felt his cheeks flush with pride, but he quickly shook his head. "I couldn't have done it alone," he said, glancing at Walter. "Walter helped me every step of the way." Walter adjusted his tiny glasses, his wings fluttering with pride. "Oh, Pip, you've been the real hero. I just nudged you along." The keeper's voice chuckled warmly. "True wisdom lies in recognizing the strength of others. You both have earned the right to uncover the secrets of this library." As the keeper spoke, the pages of the book began to turn on their own, revealing intricate illustrations and shimmering text that seemed to dance across the paper. The golden light grew brighter, and suddenly the room began to change. The walls of the library expanded, the shelves stretching infinitely upward. Books floated off their perches, their pages fluttering as if caught in a gentle breeze. Pip watched in amazement as the books began to glow, their covers transforming into vibrant images that seemed to leap out into the air. "What's happening?" Pip asked, his voice filled with wonder. "The stories are coming to life," Walter said, his tone reverent. "It's the magic of the secret library." Suddenly, one of the glowing books floated down toward Pip. Its cover depicted a ship sailing across a sparkling sea, its sails billowing in the wind. The title read, "The Adventures of Captain Starwhisker." Pip reached out to touch it, and as his paw grazed the cover, the world around him shifted. Pip and Walter found themselves standing on the deck of a grand ship, the salty breeze of the ocean rustling their fur and feathers. The ship was alive with activity, sailors hauling ropes, a parrot squawking orders, and at the helm a dashing cat in a tricorn hat. "Ahoy there!" the cat called out, tipping his hat. "Welcome aboard the Starlight Voyager! Are you here to join my crew?" Pip's jaw dropped. This is amazing! It's like we're inside the book!" Walter, perched on Pip's shoulder, adjusted his glasses with a grin. "I told you the secret library was magical." The adventure on the Starlight Voyager was thrilling. Pip helped hoist the sails, navigated through a maze of jagged rocks, and even helped Captain Starwhisker find a hidden treasure chest filled with sparkling jewels. But just as quickly as the adventure began, the world of the book dissolved, and Pip found himself back in the library. "That was incredible!" Pip exclaimed, his eyes sparkling with excitement. "Can we do it again?" The keeper's voice spoke once more. "The secret library holds countless stories, each waiting to be explored. But remember, Pip, the true magic of stories lies not just in the adventures they hold, but in the lessons they teach." Pip nodded, his mind racing with possibilities. "I want to learn as much as I can," he said earnestly. "I want to share these stories with everyone." Walter beamed at him. "You've already started, Pip. Your journey to find the Shadow Key was a story in itself, a story of bravery, friendship, and imagination." As Pip reflected on Walter's words, the library began to glow even brighter. The books that had come to life swirled around him, their covers opening to reveal dazzling scenes and vibrant characters. Pip felt a sense of warmth and belonging, as though he were surrounded by old friends. But then a faint shadow appeared at the edge of the room, its presence unsettling. Pip's fur bristled as he turned to face it. "What's that?" he asked, his voice steady but cautious. The keeper's tone grew serious. "That is the shadow of forgetting, a force that threatens to erase stories from memory. It is the reason the secret library was hidden away." Pip's heart clenched. "What can we do to stop it?" "You, Pip, are the key," the keeper replied. "By sharing the stories you've uncovered, you keep them alive. Stories only disappear when they are forgotten." Pip squared his shoulders, his resolve firm. "I'll make sure no story is ever forgotten." The keeper's voice softened, filled with pride. "I believe you will." As the shadow receded, the library's glow returned, brighter and more vibrant than ever. Pip felt a surge of determination, knowing that his journey was far from over. The secret library was not just a place of wonder. It was a responsibility, a gift to be shared with the world. Walter hopped onto Pip's paw, his tiny eyes gleaming. "Ready for the next adventure, partner?" Pip smiled, his confidence unshakable. "Ready." With the keeper's blessing, Pip and Walter stepped forward, ready to explore the infinite possibilities of the secret library. The stories they would uncover, the lessons they would learn, and the magic they would share were endless. As they walked into the glowing shelves, Pip knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. As Pip and Walter walked deeper into the glowing heart of the secret library, the light around them softened, becoming a warm, golden hue. The air was calm, almost like a gentle sigh, and the sounds of fluttering pages and distant whispers grew quieter. It felt as though the library itself was preparing to rest, winding down after sharing its wonders. Pip glanced at Walter, who was perched comfortably on his shoulder. "That was the most amazing day of my life," Pip said softly, his voice filled with awe and contentment. Walter nodded, adjusting his tiny glasses. "It truly was, Pip. And the best part, this is just the beginning. The stories here will always be waiting for you. They passed rows upon rows of books, their covers glowing faintly in the dimming light. Each one seemed to hum with its own quiet energy, as if whispering a good night to the world. Pip felt a peaceful warmth in his chest, a sense of belonging that made him feel both small and important all at once. "Walter," Pip began, "do you think everyone has their own secret library, hidden somewhere in their imagination?" Walter smiled, his tiny wings fluttering gently. "I believe they do, Pip. It's just a matter of finding it. Some might discover it through drawing or music or even dreaming. The magic is always there, waiting to be unlocked." Pip thought about this as they walked, his paws brushing against the soft moss that lined the library's floor. He imagined all the other animals in the forest, each with their own hidden library of dreams and stories. The thought made him feel connected to something much bigger than himself. They reached a cozy alcove where a small reading nook was tucked away. A plush armchair with embroidered stars sat beside a round wooden table, which held a steaming cup of cocoa and a stack of books tied with a silk ribbon. The scent of cocoa and parchment filled the air, wrapping around Pip like a warm blanket. "I think this is where we should rest for the night," Walter suggested, hopping down from Pip's shoulder onto the table. "Even adventurers need their sleep." Pip nodded, feeling a pleasant heaviness in his paws. He climbed onto the chair, its cushions soft and inviting, and pulled a blanket decorated with moonlit clouds over himself. Walter nestled into a tiny nest of papers beside him, his tiny body curling up comfortably. The library seemed to respond to their presence, its glow dimming to a gentle amber that mimicked the fading light of the sun. The shelves whispered softly, their words soothing and rhythmic like a lullaby for tired souls. Pip closed his eyes, letting out a deep, contented sigh. The events of the day played through his mind like a vivid dream. The discovery of the secret door, the riddles they solved, the adventures within the books, and the lessons they learned. "Walter," Pip murmured, his voice thick with drowsiness. "Do you think we'll ever run out of stories?" Walter's voice was soft, almost a whisper. "Not as long as we keep dreaming, Pip. Stories are endless, just like the stars in the sky." Pip smiled at this, his mind drifting to the countless stories yet to be discovered. He imagined himself sharing these stories with others, lighting up their imaginations, just as the library had lit up his. The thought filled him with a sense of purpose, a quiet joy that lingered as he drifted further into sleep. The library seemed to embrace him, its walls shimmering faintly as though wrapping him in a cocoon of light and warmth. Pip felt completely safe, as though nothing in the world could disturb the peace of this magical place. Walter's tiny snores reached Pip's ears and he chuckled softly. "Good night, Walter," he whispered, his voice barely audible. "Good night, Pip," Walter replied sleepily, his voice fading into a contented hum. The room grew quieter still, the whispers of the books slowing to a gentle hush. The library was at rest, its stories waiting patiently for the dawn, when they would once again spring to life. For now, everything was still, the only sound the soft, steady breathing of its two visitors. Pip's thoughts grew hazy, his mind floating on the edge of dreams. He imagined himself soaring through the pages of a book, riding on the back of a dragon made of stardust, or exploring a castle made entirely of clouds. Each thought was softer than the last, like feathers brushing against his mind. His body grew heavier, sinking deeper into the chair's cushions. The warmth of the blanket, the faint glow of the library, and the soothing presence of Walter beside him all worked together to lull him into a deep, peaceful sleep. And as Pip finally drifted off, a gentle voice filled the air, so soft it was almost imperceptible. It was the keeper of stories speaking one last time. "Sleep well, little adventurer. The magic of imagination will always be with you." The library's glow dimmed to the faintest flicker, the room wrapped in a serene quiet. Pip's dreams were filled with wonder, his heart light and content. And as the secret library rested, it seemed to hum with the promise of new adventures waiting patiently for the morning to come.